We all just kind of assume the internet we use every day is, well, mostly safe. But have you ever stopped to think about the people who actually make it safe? This isn't a story about algorithms or firewalls. It's a human story about the psychological frontline and about a man named Alberto who was pushed right to his absolute breaking point.
I have to either quit or this is going to affect me big time. Think about that for a second. That was the choice Alberto was facing. It was an ultimatum he gave himself, his career or his sanity. To really understand how a professional gets to a point like that, we need to step into the world he was forced to live in, day after day. All right, so let's break this down. Who is this guy, Alberto? And what exactly was the job that took him right to the edge? So, on paper, his job title was Computer Forensics Analyst. It sounds pretty technical, almost clinical, right? Like a digital detective following trails of evidence through data and code. You'd think the whole point is to stay detached, a few steps removed from the actual crimes you're investigating. But that was just on paper. The reality? It was the complete opposite. That computer screen wasn't a barrier, it was a gateway. And the data he was analyzing wasn't abstract at all. It was a constant daily plunge into the absolute worst of humanity. His job wasn't really about files. It was about being a forced witness to pure horror, over and over again. To really get what Alberto was up against, we need to define the exact threat he was facing. This wasn't just random crime. It was a calculated, cruel form of abuse. It's known as digital predation. And the psychology here is so key. We're not talking about crimes for money or power. The motivation, the core driver, is sadism, getting genuine enjoyment from someone else's suffering. And the internet, with its total anonymity, it's like throwing gasoline on that fire. It doesn't just enable this behavior, it makes it so much bigger and so much worse.
And what's really chilling is how methodical it is. These predators, they literally have a playbook. It's a systematic process for destroying someone psychologically. It starts with grooming, creating a fake identity to earn deep emotional trust. Then, step 2 is to slowly chip away at the victim's self-worth, making them completely dependent. And the final act is often sextortion, using that trust as a weapon for control, and again, for the sick pleasure of it all.
Now, as Alberto sifted through case after case, he started to notice a really disturbing pattern. The perpetrators weren't always the monsters you'd imagine hiding in a basement. He found they were often people coming from highly repressed environments, think strict religious institutions or rigid military hierarchies. It's a chilling thought. This profound darkness was festering in places built on extreme control.
So all of this leads us right to the heart of the story, the psychological cost. This is the unbelievable price Alberto paid for doing his job, the point where that whole clinical detachment idea just completely shattered. I want you to just let this number sink in for a second. Over 3,000. That's not 3,000 files. That's over 3,000 individual pieces of traumatic material that Alberto was required to review. 3,000 moments of unimaginable cruelty that he had to witness, catalog, and analyze. Look, Alberto knew the job was going to be tough, but there are some lines you just can't prepare yourself to cross. And you can hear it in his own words. He said, once you saw a baby in a certain situation, wow. That one word, wow. It's not amazement. It's the sound of horror. It's the sound of a fundamental belief about the world just breaking.
Now, to understand the kind of damage this does, we have to talk about a concept called ontological security. It sounds academic, but it's actually really simple. It's that deep unconscious trust we all have that the world makes sense. You know, gravity works, the sun rises, and people generally behave in predictable ways. It's our brain's fundamental need for a stable reality. Well, Alberto's job was like taking a sledgehammer to that foundation. Every single day, he was looking at proof that the world was not stable, that its rules could be broken in the most horrific ways. He was seeing evidence that this deep, sadistic cruelty was operating just beneath the surface of everything. His sense of a predictable world was being systematically destroyed. And the result of that destruction is a state called ontological insecurity. And listen, this isn't just stress or burnout. It's a profound existential crisis. It's the feeling that you literally can't trust the fabric of reality anymore. That was the psychological injury that forced his hand. It was either quit or be completely consumed by the work. So he quit. He made the choice. But what happens after that? What do you do when your entire worldview has been broken? You have to find a way to rebuild it. And for Alberto, that meant searching for a new kind of community. And here's the wild irony. After being so damaged by the darkest parts of the internet, he turned right back to the digital world to find healing. Not as an investigator this time, but just as a person, searching for connection, searching for any place where reality could feel stable and make sense again.
This is where he stumbled upon a pretty modern phenomenon, something we call digital tribalism. These aren't tribes in the traditional sense, based on family or where you live. These are groups that form across any border, united completely by shared ideas, shared interests, and a shared worldview.
And this really shows you the difference. Traditional tribes are anchored to a physical place, to family. Digital tribes are anchored to ideas. For someone like Alberto, this was everything. Belonging wasn't about his zip code. It was about finding other people who saw the world in a similar way, people who could help him rebuild that shared sense of reality he'd lost.
And you can just feel the sheer relief in his own words. He says, "It was beautiful. Nobody ever did that during a whole day when I was dying to say things your friends are around." I mean, can you imagine? After years of this silent, isolating work, he finally found people who would just listen. That simple human act was the first step toward rebuilding his trust in people.
And this brings us to a really fascinating question. For someone like Alberto, whose fundamental sense of reality was destroyed, can these new digital tribes actually provide a strong enough foundation to build a new one? Can a digital community truly heal a wound that was inflicted by the digital world?
So as we start to wrap this up, it's really important that we zoom out. Because while Alberto's story is incredibly personal, what it means, well, it has implications for every single one of us living in this connected age. So what are the big takeaways here? First, the safe, clean internet we all get to enjoy has a hidden human cost. Second, that cost isn't just stress. It's a deep trauma that can literally shatter a person's reality. But we've also seen how our basic human need for community is adapting, finding new life in these digital tribes. And maybe most importantly, this is a reminder that for the people protecting us, the line between being a guardian and becoming a victim is terrifyingly thin.
Alberto's journey is an amazing story of resilience, for sure, but it's also a huge red flag. He is just one person in an invisible workforce of content moderators, forensic analysts, and investigators who are all carrying these unseen scars so that the rest of us don't have to.
And that leaves us with one final, really crucial question. We all benefit from a safe internet, but that cost is not shared equally. So who is really paying the psychological price for our digital security? And what, if anything, is our responsibility to them?